The DiMaggio Trials contains themes of drug use, mental illness, and medicinal malpractice. Take care of yourself. Thank you for listening.
Hey. Shit. Sorry. Anyway, hi. Let me introduce myself. My name is Isaac John Oscar DiMaggio, but everyone just calls me DiMaggio. I was born on January 12th, 1978. I live at 209 Watson Road, apartment E in St. Jacoby, Missouri, America. That zip code, in case you're interested, is 63080. I've been living at this apartment complex on and on for about 3 years, and I don't plan on moving anytime soon. So this is where you can find me if anything goes wrong. My mom lives like 20 minutes away. Her phone number is 637-293-1856. She's my emergency contact, I guess. I don't know who would be listening to this. I'm keeping all my tapes in a box near my bed, so I guess if you found them then, you're my landlord or the cops. Maybe you are my mom and giving you her phone number is redundant. Anyway, it's October 21st, 2000, Saturday. I am 22 years old. That will change soon, but there's nothing I can do about that. A lot of people don't like change. They don't like having to change schools, change houses, but you think the world would be used to change by now. Nothing stays the same. I mean, look at nature. The world itself is constantly moving on us. I live in the Midwest, so we get like every season, but never like it's supposed to be. Especially now in October. It could be sunny on Monday, storming on Tuesday, then snow on Wednesday. It's completely unpredictable, but every time it sprinkles, people act like they've never seen rain before. There was a woman at work who always came in wearing an outfit completely wrong for the weather. It would be downpouring and she'd be in a summer dress. But the next day, she'd wear a sweater and a raincoat and the sun would be blazing through the windows. I once asked her about her mistakes and she said that, starting that day, she'd be keeping her wardrobe in her car, just in case. I like change. I think I thrive in it. I get antsy when I'm in one place for too long. I get bored. I think change is fun. It's exciting. When I was younger, my mom used to move the furniture in the house like every week. My brother and I would switch rooms all the time. He'd go in the basement and I had the room upstairs, or my mom would make us share the basement because she thought the upstairs room should be an office. She'd repaint the walls, get a new microwave, sell the table, buy a cat. It drove me and my brother crazy, but my dad would just sigh and help her move the couch. Something was always different. I've moved out now, but every time I visit her, I swear I don't recognize a single item in the house. Maybe that's where all this restlessness came from. Still, there are constants in my life, these steel beams that I can't seem to move. The beat-up van I've had since I was 16, the houseplants that I take care of better than myself, and my brother, who moves around as much as my mom did. Anthony always calls me on Fridays around 6 p.m. when he gets home from work. I've had the same job since before I graduated high school, and it's a dumb, stupid job. Laurence University is this new, elite, sophisticated STEM school right outside of St. Jacoby. It opened in 1996. They only take in about 200 students a year, and barely half of them graduate. Most of Laurence University is dedicated to laboratory work. They specialize in leading their own experiments. The maintenance of their science labs costs more money than every new student's tuition combined, and tuition is pretty fucking expensive. All sorts of incredibly smart people come all around the world to intern, study, and work at Laurence. I sound like a botched college recruiter. I'm not, though. No, I go to Laurence to take people's orders at the in-house cafeteria. They pay me $5.50 an hour to feed doctors and engineers a daily serving of fatty foods. Those, at least, who can't be bothered to walk a few steps over to the salads and wrap station that my friend Amber works at. Something that definitely needs to change is minimum wage. I'm expecting it to double to $10 by 2009. I went to community college for 2 years and I got an associate's in the arts and now I'm flipping burgers. But I'm flipping burgers for a famous science institute, if that counts for anything. It's fine, I don't care. It's a job, it gets me money, and I can find change in other places. I've gone away before, went to Chicago, was gonna start over. I came back. Moved out to work on a farm for a little while. That worked out worse. Farm people scare me. They wake up at the same time, do the same thing every day, every year, and if something changes, then something is wrong. I always end up back here. I always have to come back here. Luckily, Laurence University will give me a job no matter how long I'm gone. Not because I'm a great burger flipper, but because they're keeping an eye on me. I think I'm worth a lot of money to them. Why am I important to a bunch of high-end scientists even though I got a D in basic algebra? Because I volunteered. This is about 2 years ago. I was slicing tomatoes and putting them on frozen patties when one of the doctors approached me. The same woman who didn't know how to dress for the weather, Dr. Sparrow. She told me they needed a volunteer for one of their experiments. Unfortunately for them, it had to be someone who knew nothing of the project they were working on, so they couldn't use one of the interns like they usually did. Apparently this was Laurence University's most prized and anticipated project of the year. It was her job to find the perfect volunteer so they could start human testing. I fit the layout they were looking for. I was old enough to volunteer, but still young, and I would bounce back from surgery. I was physically well, mentally well enough. She asked me if I knew anything about agabus. I asked if it was a type of medicine, and I was hired then. She also noticed that I had a speech impediment, which I probably should have mentioned before. In case you were wondering, I have an articulation disorder. I stumble over words, I have a hard time pronouncing certain sounds, like R, It's been a problem since I was a kid. And yet, Dr. Sparrow said that made me an even better candidate. I don't know exactly what they did to me. They didn't tell me that, but they had me sign a contract saying I get $1,000 if I did, and even more money if I didn't ask questions or mention it to anyone else. And I thought that was pretty cool, like I was a secret agent or something. What the university didn't know is that the group of ragtag scientists were putting a piece of equipment in my body that cost $300,000 to develop. I think it's in my head. I've tried to find a scar, but it must be very small. Like I said, they didn't tell me much. They didn't need some kid running around announcing their special project to the world. Nor do they want me running around with it in my skull. Especially since the people who were experimenting on me took off to continue their research elsewhere. Laurence University lost their big, expensive project and decided to keep tabs on me. They would call me every week, constantly send me letters in the mail, and insist I go to regular doctor's appointments to make sure I'm at peak health. And I am. Whatever they put in me doesn't do anything. Not without the injection. The injection, as they explained it, is basically a secondary supplement. When I was in the hospital, they gave me a shot each morning after the surgery. The injections are what make the implant work. Without the injections, this $250,000 piece of technology is just floating around in my body. And although they've tried, I won't let them take it out. I won't let them take it out, and they can't forcibly take it out, so they keep tabs on me. They watch me, but in that I have a consistent job and I get decent health insurance, which is more than most Americans can say at this point. And it's not that I'm scared to get it out, that I think it's going to be painful or anything like that. I need it. I was in the labs for 1 week, and I was paid and kept occupied the whole time. But I can talk about that later. That doesn't matter right now. What matters is that by the end of the week, I changed. Everything changed. I didn't know what the experiment was about until then. I didn't know what they were testing, but I knew the risk. I didn't know what to expect, but I tried not to think about it too much. I felt it, though. It hurt. Before they pumped me up with painkillers, my throat began burning. It was like I was set on fire. I drank so much water that the nurses thought I was going to drown myself. It got noisy after that. Everyone started watching over me, checking my pulse, sticking wooden sticks in my mouth, and asking me questions. The pain meds made it hard to form thought, but talking was worse. Even though they kept asking me to say things, it was hard getting any sounds out through the fire pit in my mouth. It wore off after about 2 hours, and then they gave me another shot. The next day, the pain came back, but it was somehow worse. They stopped it with morphine this time, knocking me out for a whole day. They gave me the third shot while I was asleep. When I woke up, I felt better. I felt amazing. I've done drugs before. I'm 22 years old, live in the Midwest, so of course I've done drugs before. Nothing too serious, just like weed mostly. Anyway, that shit made me feel good, but this was something I can't even explain. It felt like everything was gonna be alright. Everything was gonna be okay because I was okay. Because I was special and invincible and important. I opened my mouth to speak and I sounded weird. I looked down at my hands, my legs, my face in the mirror, and I was me. It was my mouth saying those words, but not my voice. I alerted the nurses asking what fucking drugs they gave me, and they just smiled. I went to see the scientists, including Dr. Sparrow, and they just smiled and smiled. They had me start reading a book, if I remember, it was Walden. Yeah, by someone named Thoreau. I remember something about growing beans and being alone. I read and I got scared. This wasn't my voice. I was moving my lips, but it wasn't my voice. I was speaking higher pitch, and it sounded so strange to me. They worked around me as I spoke. Many people came in to see me. They checked my vitals, observed me, listened, took notes. People began crowding my room in suits and scrubs. It felt like the entire university stopped by to hear me read this ancient book. All the while, Dr. Sparrow was by my side, encouraging me to keep going, telling me I was doing well. I believed her and I kept reading. It wasn't until I got to this quote, and this one I remember. It had to be nearly 200 pages in. The voice I was using was getting tired and worn until someone joined me. We spoke and we said, if you make castles in the air, your work would not be lost. That is where they should be. She was using the same voice I was using. I was using her voice. They told me I could stop after that. And the woman, this blonde-haired, blue-eyed lady, spoke to the scientist. Then she introduced herself to me as Allison Newton. Apparently she was the person giving the most money for this experiment, so it was her DNA that they used. She wanted her name to be in the papers, so she made sure that it was. They took her DNA, did something to it. I don't know anything about science, but for 2 days I spoke with her voice. They recorded me to properly show me, and I sounded beautiful. For the first time, I was happy with my voice. For her, it wasn't all that strange to be with me. It was weird to hear a young man speaking with a middle-aged woman's voice, but when we talked, we don't hear what everyone else does. Allison Newton was hearing someone who sounded maybe a little bit similar to what she heard in her head, but everyone else heard two identical voices. If it wasn't for the way we spoke, the words we used, we could have been the same person. I loved it. I could close my eyes and I was Allison Newton. I was wealthy, important, enchanting, and everyone knew it. I had fun playing with it, and Allison was more than happy to let me try to fool her husband on the phone. Everyone looked at me if I was the sole reason for this incredible breakthrough. I offered you another one. They were working on extracting the DNA from all the scientists, interns, and other notable people who paid big money. I offered to take more. I asked them to inject every voice in my blood. I begged. They told me no. Said that was it. One and done. They said they didn't want to overdo it, that it was still volatile. They didn't want to hurt me. Then they left. They took off and took their implants with them. But not the injection. They made a lot of them and they let the university keep some of it, as an act of kindness or something. And I have it. 2 weeks ago, Dr. Sparrow stopped me in the parking lot. I hadn't seen her in St. Jacoby since the original experiment. I haven't seen her again. But she gave me 10 vials, 10 needles, all voices of those who either paid a lot of money to be a part or they did the research themselves. She said if I froze them, they basically last forever. So I have 9 in my freezer and 1 in my hand. Next to me is a bottle of melatonin tablets and a case of beers. I'm Maggio. I live at 209 Watson Road, Apartment E, St. Jacoby, Missouri, 63080. I'm telling you this in case something goes wrong. So if anyone is listening, maybe you could find me. But you have to understand, I need this. I need the change. Life is a constant numbing pain unless you do something to heal it. And I can't right now. I'm poor, I'm tired, and I'm so fucking unimportant. If I remember, this hurts. So I'm gonna try to sleep for a little while. But I wanna wake up. I'm going to wake up. And when I do wake up, I'm gonna sound a little different.